Crusader Kings 3 was promised to be an ultra-immersive, medieval sandbox RPG with a focus on character interactions, but in a lot of aspects it fails to live up to the throne it had inherited from Crusader Kings 2. Now, in my title, I mentioned that Crusader Kings 3 feels hollow. Well, what do I mean by that? Crusader Kings 3 just feels very samey. No matter who or where you play as, it feels the same. Being a tribal ruler in Russia feels a lot like playing as a feudal lord in England, which basically plays the same as ruling a caliphate in the Middle East. It all just feels the same, and I wanted to talk about why the game feels like that. Now, I think most people can agree that the game definitely took some steps forward from Crusader Kings 2 to Crusader Kings 3, but it seems to lack a lot of the soul that the second game had. I think one of the biggest differences that you will notice when you first play Crusader Kings 3 compared to Crusader Kings 2 is the polish. Crusader Kings 3 feels a lot more polished, it's easier to learn than 2, as well as looking a lot better, not just graphically but UI wise as well. And I also will say that warfare for the most part is better. But other than that, I will say that I truly think that Crusader Kings 2 clears Crusader Kings 3 in almost every other aspect of the game. Now, of course, Crusader Kings 2 does have the benefit of years of DLC releases, but honestly, when a sequel comes out, you would expect it to have all of the features that previous games had. There are some rather big missing features that Crusader Kings 2 had that Crusader Kings 3 doesn't. Off the top of my head, there are societies which would fit great into this more character-focused game. I mean, you could join a warrior society and duel and fight with other members. You could become a monk. You could even become a Satanist and help birth the Antichrist. And Crusader Kings 3 has none of that. Another feature is subunits in armies and flanking maneuvers. I mean, most of the game is still focused on warfare. Why did Paradox feel the need to remove depth from the warfare system? Merchant Republics are also missing. I know that they said they do plan on tackling that system and they want it to have a lot more depth than Crusader Kings 2. But why just have nothing in its place? I don't really think it's acceptable, in my opinion. In Paradox's other titles, they have no problem just having sort of a bare-bones functionality for systems and then expanding upon it later. I don't see why that couldn't have been the case for Merchant Republics. I think the most glaring missing feature is the lack of council voting and any sort of political system or interactiveness within the game. I mean, in Crusader Kings 2, in order to enact things, your council would either have to vote yes on it, or you could eventually try to repeal those laws and have an absolute monarchy. At the start of the game, you were not all powerful. The most powerful vassals in your realm had actual authority and power over you. In Crusader Kings 2, if you were weak, counselors would jump on you and ensure that they were the ones actually in charge of the realm. You didn't have any power by yourself. There was some actual politicking in the game. Now, if you're weak, counselors and other vassals would prefer just to dethrone you and then dethrone the next guy ad nauseum because your vassals have no actual motive beyond just getting rid of a liege that they don't like. Well, those are just the features I can think of off the top of my head. There are obviously a lot more. But to touch back on the lack of flavor that I talked about earlier, I think one of the most glaring examples are the events in game. I just don't think that there is enough of them. Now, I do have a lot of hours in the game, so you might be thinking, well, of course you think that. There aren't a lot of events because you've seen them all because you've played so many times. But that honestly just isn't the case. I don't have a hard count of events in game. I don't think anybody does, but it feels like less than 500 with the amount of repetitiveness. I swear, if I get one more event of me walking in on my kid being freaky, I'm gonna lose it. Why do I always get that event? If you played through like 400 years of in-game time, which will not even take you from the earliest start date to the end game, you will see the same events repeatedly. You will be dealing with the same court events, the same traveling events. It just makes the game seem so unimmersive when you are dealing with the same problems that your dad dealt with 100 times before. But I don't entirely blame them for this issue. I mean, what is the real solution? You know, make 10,000 events so that they never repeat. I don't think that that's a cost-effective solution. But I wish that the game would make it so that events don't fire over a certain amount of times per character lifetime. And then another issue with the events is that they're just surface deep. I mean, they don't actually feel like they are contributing to the tapestry of your ruler's life. It's just another menu to click through. Maybe something good happens to you, maybe something bad, but it doesn't matter. After the 30th time that you've seen that event, you're going to be beyond caring about it. Another issue with the blandness of the game is how every game just plays the same. Which, I know, obviously, right? It is just a single game. No matter who you play as, you are still playing the same game. But I mean, every game you started off, you pick or create a character, and then you work your way up the feudal hierarchy, create a kingdom, have kids, conquer some more, maybe murder some people. But it's all just the same. Playing as a count and a duke and a king all feels the same. You just have some more vassals to manage. There's nothing really noticeably different no matter where you start off at or who you start as. I wish there were some more unique decisions for certain cultures and different titles for cultures. Just some sort of uniqueness or freshness to playing in a new, different part of the world. So they have been mitigating this by adding unique mechanics for the Byzantine Empire. We consider them the Roman Empire in this house. The Roman Empire didn't fall until 1453, remember that. And then adding clan mechanics for the Middle East. But I still wish that they added more. I mean, rulers from all over Europe are exactly the same. I wish you felt more of a difference between tribal and feudal leaders. The only real difference is that the buildings and units you have access to are different. You should have different events and different character interactions available. A chieftain and count should not be interacting with vassals and other rulers in the same way. Now, it's not like Crusader Kings 2 had each character feel super unique, but Crusader Kings 2 was so much more fun and unpredictable. Your player character could just drop dead at any time from any minor issues. Every event felt more deadly and real. It felt like there was a million things to do because there was just so many events and so much just unscripted stuff constantly happening. You become a Satanist, you become the next great Khan. There was a lot of fun just seeing how your character reacted to these events that always happened unexpectedly. Just like in real life, events you do not know are going to happen to you. In Crusader Kings 3, almost everything is always expected. There's not really any curveballs or surprises the game throws at you. And I think that's really where Crusader Kings 2 shines and Crusader Kings 3 doesn't shine. Another issue when it comes to flavors is the religion. This is one of my big gripes with the game. There are so many religions in game, and you could even create your own, and it just does nothing. I wish this game would emphasize just how important religion was in medieval times. So a big point of contention in real life, which Crusader Kings 2 attempted to show a little bit controversy around investiture, which is basically where the Pope was allowed to appoint bishops to kingdoms or other lands. Now, the bishop would own a lot of land and resources in the kingdom, which made them very powerful, which could be a boon or bane for a ruler. Most rulers would have preferred to be able to appoint bishops themselves, but the Pope, who was believed to be God's voice and authority on earth, and that's still believed if you're Catholic, did not want to grant them that power because obviously it was the church's business, it was church land. And it obviously, if it was taken away, would take away the church's power. This was somewhat solved by the Concordat of Worms in real life. But again, religion in this time period underscored everything. I mean everything. You would have been hard-pressed to find an atheist who publicly professed that they did not believe in God. But in-game, it's nothing more than like minor flavor. Another way to paint the map by converting the whole world to your poo-poo religion. Or you can do funny hijinks like fucking the Pope. I mean, in-game, religion is truly nothing. If you get excommunicated, which back then would have been a huge deal, that would have led to a lot of unrest within your peasants and other lords. But in-game, it just gives some people some free caucus belly on you, a free way to conquer your land. Unlike real life, where it was a huge deal, religion was everything. In this game, just kind of does nothing with it. I mean, I really wish they would. So, I mean, of course, for most of these issues that I brought up, there are mods. But I don't want Paradox to become a studio like Bethesda, where wherever you complain, someone just says, oh, but there's a mod for that. Oh, just download this mod and it fixes everything. I don't know. A lot of the features I brought up should have just been in the game from the start. Crusader Kings 3 is a game with immense potential, but right now, it just lacks the soul and unpredictability that made Crusader Kings 2 a masterpiece. I hope Paradox can address these shortcomings in future updates, because as it stands right now, this throne feels hollow. Yeah, you like how I did that? Tied the title back in at the end. That's all I got. This has been Conduit. Really hope you enjoyed the video. If you're still watching, like, subscribe, do all that nonsense. If you are sticking around, maybe watch my last video. It did pretty well, man. YouTube was not pushing it, but it also might have not been a good video. I don't know, man. You tell me. That's all I got. Remember, Jesus loves you.